Hey guys, it's Hollie here for PlayStation Access. Now this is a gentleman I've actually always wanted to interview, but I've never had an opportunity before. I am with the one and only David Cage. Now we're talking about Detroit. Now when we saw this at E3 previously, this is my thing. I'm so excited for it. We've seen some new stuff here at this show, but let's talk a little bit about the premise for the story, because normally when we're talking about androids and android revolutions, we're sort of putting them down, but you flip that perspective and now we're actually the androids, and actually you could almost say humanity are the bad guys.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's been many great stories about androids and robots in general, and I wanted just to take a totally different angle. So my approach was to say, what if they were the good guys and we were the bad guys? And it was interesting to think that maybe we are a declining race, and maybe we become too selfish, and maybe we become too dependent on technologies, and where they are a brand new species, and maybe they can see the world with different eyes.
Now we talk about seeing the world from different eyes, but this world is also non-stop in the sense of how the story flows, because it is flowing constantly in 1,000 different directions. How does that, when you're planning these stories, you must think, I've got an idea for a story, so I've got my start, I've got my middle, and I've got the end, but actually the middle is going to be a spaghetti junction of ideas.
Yeah,
how do you do that as a storyteller?
Well, in the case of Detroit, even the beginning and the end is spaghetti.
So all of it is spaghetti.
But yeah. Well, it's been a real challenge, especially because with Detroit we wanted to push the limits and see how bending we could make the story, and how far we could go with branching narratives. And we wanted to go much further than whatever we've done in the past. So it's been a real challenge. It's been 2 years in writing, 2 years in shooting. It's been really an insane amount of work to make it work, and working on the script was as much writing than dealing with charts and conditions and variables, and making sure that if you did that in the first scene, it has consequences there, and just be consistent with the story, not offer just one good story and 10 bad stories, but try to make sure that each path, each branch of the tree structure is as interesting and exciting as the others.
That's a lot, as a storyteller, that's a lot of pressure to be under. Everything has to be good.
It is a real challenge, especially because sometimes there is one branch that you like a little bit more than the others, and you just hope that more people will see it, but at the same time say, no. I mean, all branches must be equally interesting. But it's also interesting because it was a difficult decision to make when you develop a thread, to think that maybe only 10% of the people will see this. And usually that makes you step back and say, no, we're not going to do this. But in the case of Detroit, we embrace the idea and say, okay, yes, we're going to do it, even if only 10% of the people see it.
Now, games from the Quantic Dream tell, stories Quantic Dream tell, they have a lovely pace to them, they tell beautiful stories, but sometimes people are like, oh, I like action, and therefore maybe would pass up a Quantic Dream experience because it doesn't give them the action. Do you guys think about that when you're developing, that you're still trying to make a game that everyone will at least try and enjoy?
Of course, that's my goal at every game, is to try to create a story that is emotional, that is meaningful, and that will be appealing to as many people as possible. It's a challenge because it's difficult to please everyone, and maybe this is not necessarily what you want to do. You want to create something that gets you passionate about what you're doing, in the hope that people will feel this passion and will share it. And we're really fortunate because this is really what happened with our past games, and we hope it's going to be the case again with Detroit.
Now, in this particular E3 demo, we've seen a different protagonist. How is that working? Are those two protagonists we've seen, are they linked in any way? How many different protagonists are we seeing?
So in Detroit, you play 3 androids. So we introduced the character of Kara that we initially developed for short that was released in 2012. There's been incredibly...
Is it really that long ago?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. And Kara is really the fugitive. She wants to escape, to be free. Then last year at E3, we introduced a character called Connor. And Connor is the deviant hunter. He's on the human side. He helps them to chase androids and to destroy them. And the character we announced this year at E3 is called Marcus, played by actor Jesse Williams.
Wow.
And he is the leader of the revolution, and he's going to try to free androids in the city of Detroit.
So do these stories then, do they intertwine? Like what Marcus does might affect Kara's story?
Yeah, absolutely. What's important to explain, I mean, people who played Heavy Rain know perfectly how it works, but for those who didn't play Heavy Rain, you really play the 3 characters. So it's not you can choose one, you need to play them 3.
Okay.
The stories are really independent at the beginning, but they may become interlaced at some point. And also what you do with one character will probably have consequences on the 2 others. So you really need to think about your decision and your choice. And of course, each character can die.
Right, okay.
Which makes that very important. So again, this is something we did on Heavy Rain, and people really enjoy that, and Detroit works exactly the same way. So if you die with one of these 3 characters, there's no game over, the story doesn't stop, the story carries on, but you'll have to deal with the fact that you lost one character.
Are you doing anything then to help players once they do finish the game? Anything to help them see the decisions they've made, like a tree or something? You go, right, maybe next time when I do it, I'm going to maybe, at this point, I'm going to try something else? Yeah,
absolutely. That's been a real focus in the development, because we realized that sometimes, especially on Beyond Two Souls, I mean, we developed a lot of tree structures that no one could really see, because we wanted it to be quite invisible and organic. Yeah. And it was frustrating sometimes for some players, and we thought, okay, this time we need to think differently and try to give really something tangible and concrete for the player, so he knows when he unlocked something, or when he did something that will have consequences in the story.
Amazing. Thank you so much for your time. I can't wait to see more. Like I said, Beyond Two Souls I thought was incredible.
Thanks.
I'm so excited for this story especially. Thank you so much for your time.
My pleasure.
And guys, you can keep watching, because there's plenty more coming up from E3 on PlayStation Access.